Happy Friday. So today I want to talk to you guys about what size wire chopper should I get. So that's a question I get a lot, asked a lot. A lot of people when they first call us, they want to go with the biggest one. I want a C4, I want a C5. They have all this grand plan of what they're going to be chopping and how much material they can get. And a lot of times, you know, if they have the material, if they already have the material source, or they have a captive audience, like I like to call it, it's material like a car shredder, for example. They already are putting out so much material just from their shredder that they already have the material there. It just makes sense for them to go with a bigger system. And then if they want to buy more wire in addition to, they can do that. But let's start with our C1s. So our C1s are smallest. I mean, we have a CM Mini, but we haven't really been focusing on that much lately because it's such a small system that's really more mom and pop, a small electrician. So we're gonna start with our C1. So C1, you can do about 400 pounds per hour, 16,000 pounds per week. And that is the C1, so 400 per hour. Now, the one in the C is 1,000, so it stands for 1,000. So that Airtable can handle 1,000 pounds per hour. We have some customers that have added, you know, shredders and mills and additional equipment to get that up to 1,000 pounds an hour. But the C1 averages about 400 pounds an hour. Now that's average. That's, you know, a man physically or woman physically putting the wire into the chopper, into the mouth, the granulator. But you can certainly increase that with shredders and other equipment. But just the basic standard C1, about 400 pounds an hour. You'll do, you know, if you're planning, you'll do about a load per month with that C1 system. C2 system, and this is number one wire, Romex, THHN, just your regular household wire. If you're going to be doing low grade, like tin coated, low grade telephone wire, you can always take these numbers and cut by about 50%. So the next ones are C2, and I'd say that in the last few years, this kind of became our flagship. We've sold a lot of these. It's compact. It does quite enough to, like, for a decent size, you know, smaller scrapyard, medium sized scrapyard or a processor. It's a nice standalone unit. And it's robust. It does a lot of material. So down there, we're at 600 to 800 pounds per hour. So with that there, you're looking at, you know, a load a week roughly per week. My writing is terrible. Or 4 loads per month. Now this is on 40 hours a week. The truth of the matter is, you're either going to be running a shift and a half to get those 40 hours, or you're going to be, you know, running 35 hours or so, you know, if you're running 40, because you're not going to run it for 40 hours. If you have a team of guys there that are there for 40 hours, they're not going to be chopping for 40 hours. There's going to be maybe a half hour downtime every day. There's also the downtime for lunch break if you're not doing rotating with the guys. So the true number is a little less unless you make up that difference by having a couple more hours. So one of the things we did here is I had guys coming in and staggering for a while. So we were getting 10 hours in, but the second crew was coming in like 3 hours later. So I had 2 guys running a machine, and then they'd come in, a couple hours later, and then they stayed 2 hours later. So they had like overlap. So you can achieve it by doing stuff like that. So the C4 system, we've sold a lot of these. So these are the 2 that we sold the most of. And the C2, you know, when I say sold a lot, we have like tons of these out there, C1, C2s. And in about 2015 or so, we had a lot of demand for the C4. C4 is a much larger system. Most of the time they're custom. We build these around a different application. So, you know, aluminum copper radiators. We can still do it with these other ones, but this is a lot bigger of a machine. And with this here, you're looking at 2 to 3 loads per week. It's the base model does about 2,500 pounds per hour. And hopefully you guys can see this, but 2,500 pounds per hour. And with that, you're at, you know, 3 loads a week, 9 loads per month. And this is kind of getting into the upper level of what you can process. It would include a shredder, so you would be putting more through it. C2, you can upgrade. So all of these, you can get a little bit more by adding more components to it. But this is just giving you an idea of, hey, you know, the range that you're trying to do. So this here, and this is input, not output, right? So with this here, you'll be about 9 loads per month. Now the next one is our C5 Custom, and the C5 is really a custom system. You'll have seen some of these where there's multiple air tables, and you're at, you know, 5,000 pounds, 4,000 pounds an hour, depending on the options they add onto it. So this is not as common. The demand for this is not as common. I'd say in the last few years, the demand for the C2 has been higher because guys are like, it's smaller, I can get it faster, I can set it up in the facility. There's a lot of material that it can do. It's very versatile. When you're switching from one material to the next, you don't have to take as long to clean out the whole system. And for its size, I would say this is probably the best moneymaker for how much you're spending. Some guys actually, when they work out the math, are like, why don't I just buy 2 C2 systems instead of a C4 or C5? And the benefit of that is actually you can set up teams, right? And then you can have the teams compete, you know, for production. And most of the loss of production in processing, we can cover this in other videos, but most of the loss of production is silly downtime. So a guy starts looking at his phone, doesn't put material on the belt for a few minutes. You're not making that back. You're not making that material back. So if a guy goes to the bathroom and doesn't have someone, you know, fill the machine while he's gone, or nothing's in the shredder, it's just silly or call them dumb moments of not paying attention, and then nothing is going into the machine, and you can't make up that time by trying to put more into it. You risk jamming the machine or other. So yeah, the C2 lately, the C2's been I'd say our biggest seller, and it is the most versatile as far as what you can do with you know, with less. It's got a little shredder, it shares the same granulator as this one, and if you wanted to upgrade it, you could get the same shredder also. But it does have a bigger turbo. If you're going with the turbo, the C2 has a bigger turbo. It's got a bigger air table, bigger dust collector, so it's got more going for it. We just recently installed a second one in the UK, and I have the very first one in the UK. Is actually available right now. So I have a whole C2 line with zigzag and everything that is available in the UK. I'll probably make another video talking about that later. But yeah, so anyways, if you are wondering how much machine I should buy for my throughput, this is kind of it to recap. So C1 would be about a load a month. C2 would be about 4 loads a month, in that range. C4 system would be 9 loads a month. And C5, I mean, it can be anywhere from, you know, 10 to 20 loads a month, depending on the configuration of the C5. And this is not necessarily, this is, you know, I think we're gonna make the title of this video be system, not wire chopping necessarily, because these systems can be used for multiple things, aluminum copper radiators, and that would change the throughput a little bit as well. So C1, these numbers here are kind of for like number 1 wire, but if you're doing number 2 wire, cut that in about half or so, maybe 60 to 70% actually would be your throughput going through. Aluminum copper radiators, about the same thing. You could cut that about 60% if you're running that through there. But these systems can be configured to run, you know, other materials as well, as we've covered in a bunch of other videos. But any questions, put it in the comments, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one. Happy Friday. Rolling?
Yep, we're good.
Okay. Happy Friday. So today I want to talk.
Actually, let's start.
All right.
Camera wasn't as nicely as I would like.
Oof.